o'clock on Tuesday the 6th of April.
Well, it's an absolute beautiful day. Lovely little garden to work in here, and it's so quiet. On this project here, we've got to be quiet because they've got a young baby and she hasn't been very well, so we've got to show some consideration. But you can see the paving there where we're coming on. That's going to be the bulk of it, and then we're going to come along the house over here and then around and down the side. So hopefully we can make some progress, at least up to the door today, if not to the corner, and try and get the bulk of it down. Oh, this is the sandstone we're laying. This came from Chris Ayres Sandstone Supplies in Warrington, and I think it's Warrington. And as you can see, these cameras are good, but it doesn't really show the beautiful colours really with this. You can see the joints we got. You can see how the paving sort of bends around like that, so we just got to make those allowances, you know, so we may have to give that a little bit of a trim, or we may just leave it. That's just how the stone is. But we've kept it square with the house. We've kept measuring. We've got a 50mm gap running all the way across, because I just feel that there's somewhere for the water to go. You don't want that water running down the side of the house and then going across your patio. It just doesn't bode well. And then any joints, if we were to lay that tight and have a 10mm joint, all it would do is it'll just crack eventually. Just want to say a massive thank you to Ian from Stirling in Scotland for the email over the weekend. Really appreciate it. It was fantastic. I just was blown away by what you said, so really appreciate it. Have a safe day, Ian, and thanks very much. It's good that we're laying sandstone now for a change. Just got fed up of laying porcelain. Look at that. If you look, you can actually see how thin the sandstone is. And the point that I've always made is that years ago with the sandstone, it used to come in on the ships in big block form as ballast to steady the ships. Then they decided that they could sell it, and they started selling it. When they started selling it, it was nice and thick, 40mm thick. It was nice thick sandstone, all different sizes. And they did two things. They started to calibrate it, but when they started calibrating it, it gives some brands their own identity, and the calibration is great. But the only trouble is, sandstone has a high porosity value, so that sandstone becomes a lot thinner. Okay, and as a result of it becoming thinner, you're going to get massive sort of absorption of the moisture underneath. And if you look at it, there's not a lot in it, is there really? Whereas when you get a thicker slab, you get the weight in it, and you can lay that on it almost like a dry mix, because the weight is going to keep it in position as long as you've laid it correctly. But with this is when you get a lot of delamination. That's why we've slurried the back of the slab this morning. Try to go to the edge as tight as you can, simply because you do want the moisture showing through on the other side. So we're just going to go over this a little bit more here, because otherwise the moisture will show differently sometimes on the top. And the other thing what I was going to say is that when you get sandstone products, you'll get a different range in color. I think this is called the Raj blend, and from one slab to another slab, no two slabs are the same, and they change in color. And that's because how it's been made, how it was created. Okay, the mineral will change in the layers in the ground, and what you'll find is then you'll get the absorption rate sometimes will slightly differ, and you'll get different mineral deposits coming out of the slab. So there's lots of reasons that your paving reacts the way it is. The most important thing is that as a contractor, it's so important to preempt the potential problems that sandstone may have, and you need to point this out to your customer. And if you make them aware of it, it makes the process a lot more easier should a problem arise. There you can see that's how thin they are, and that's what happens sometimes with all sandstone. If it's not too thick, and we haven't got any hard lumps underneath here, but that just cracked. That could have been done in transit. Okay, I've laid these two slabs, either the 2x1 and the 2x2. Now I've laid the 1x1. But what I've done is I've laid this tight initially. okay, because I don't want the joint looking too big. Then I've laid this one to what I think the joint should be, 15 mil approximately, and they're going to vary in size because they're all undulated and natural. And then when I put this one in here now, the 1x1, what was happening, you can just see it now still, is that this one is falling a little bit short from there. So what we have to do, we just have to adjust this by a couple of mil to accommodate for the joint along here. See, so sometimes though you've just laid these, you may have to adjust to the next one. You've got to keep checking that. The silence. This is what you get when you're working in some gardens sometimes. No neighbours, no traffic. That's it. Complete silence. But then, if you were working on site, it'd be a racket and somebody would come up to you and asking you questions and shouting and bawling, and I couldn't put up with that. That's why I like being here. You know, it's a beautiful day, but it's chilly today. But this is where I like being, is in the garden, doing what I'm doing, just away from everyone. I like the isolation in a lot of respect, and the only person I'm answerable to is my client, and that's so important that you take that responsibility on. And if there's any problems that you have with your clients at any time, you've just got to deal with it there and then. Be transparent and just be honest with them, you know. Don't mess things up. I suppose I was waffling on there a little bit. What I'm saying is that if you have a problem with your client, get it dealt with there and then. Deal with it. Don't leave it with text messages or waiting for a phone call. Get in contact with them, give them a ring, speak to them, and then if you can't speak to them, pop round and see them. That's what they want. They want that reassurance. They want their hand out through that process. You've got to remember, they're spending money. I'm not going to go on now. I'm going to leave it at that. Well, the beauty about working locally is that you're able to pop home for a cuppa, a sarnie. I don't think my wife's going to make one when I go home. She looks after me all the time anyway. And obviously to use the fundamentals, and you don't have to have a toilet on site. But I just come past a little, let me just put this window up here in a minute. Just come past a new little shop, and they've got a big car park. It's quite a big little store. It's not a small store, and I've been watching the progress of it, and they've done a good job, to be fair. But what they actually done, they used recycled product, and that recycled product came in the form of brick. Okay. And the brick wasn't broken down that much. I think it could have been broken down a little bit more. But I remember doing a job probably about 2 years ago locally in my village, and I used everything. I recycled everything, all the concrete. I broke up with the machine and I smashed it up completely. Small, in probably a smaller particle than what they had on that site. And I was actually slated by one guy for using it. And he said that... I think he was a contractor as well, and he said that it wasn't a good idea to use recycled product because he said that I was cheating. Okay, he said I was cheating and using a product that wasn't suitable for patios. But I can honestly tell you, I smashed that down to, you know, literally MOT size, 40 mil. I got it down to, really broke it up. And we had some binding aggregate between it. It bound together. I compacted it. I hit it in with the bucket with the machine as well, leveled it off, and then I put a lean mix on the top. There was no way that ground was ever going to move whatsoever. And it's amazing, in my opinion, how people's lack of knowledge about the industry. And that was off somebody that I think they've been trading an amount of time. I'm not quite sure how long they've been going, but the fact was that he didn't know what he was on about, and that just proves it. You know, you can use recycled product as long as you break it down, and so it binds together. There we go. The great British weather. Look at that. Look, hailstone, snow across the country in places. I'm not surprised. Great weather. So let me show you this now. If the camera will turn. No. Not an empty. Here we are. Here it is. So here's our bed. This is what we're laying at. This is 5 to 1. Okay, 5 to 1. 5 sharp, 1 cement, a little bit of feb, some SBR, and then we've got the slab here. This is sandstone, but it's not that thick, as I've said. Slurried on the back. So what we're going to do, we're going to put this down now. I'm going to tap it down, but we're going to lift it back up, because what we want to do is we want to avoid any voids underneath. So if you can put that down for me now. Put it down. There we go. Now, this is what happens more than often. If you look at that, Eloy's going to get a sponge, and what we're going to do, we're going to get that off, that little mark there. This is what happens is when guys don't keep things clean. I've got the camera I'm holding now. I'm going to try and tap this down now with one hand. Well, my colleague gets a sponge. What we're going to do, we're going to pick that back out at the moment. That's roughly there at the moment. He's going to get a nice damp sponge. He's going to give it me. He's going to wring it out. Thank you, Eloy. Careful. There we are. So if you look, we had a bit of slurry on there, and I get so many messages off people saying that their patio's dirty, either from contractors or they've done it themselves. But look, there's nothing on there now. So what we're going to do, Eloy's going to lift that back up now, because we want to make sure that there's no voids underneath. So to put this 11 tab ceramico parani, it's probably going to pull some of the muck up with it, because it's got, there we are, it's a bit of a, there we are. So there we are, that's what it's doing underneath. And if you have a look at that, there's no voids really. So well, there is, because the muck's on the bottom of the slab there, you see. So if we just top that up again, because we're gonna push it down, tap it down in position. And what I always do with sandstone, I always make sure that that part's clean, so that when we point, we've got a nice void for the mortar to get down. Okay, Eloy? Thank you very much. So as you can appreciate, I'm holding this camera now with one hand. So what we do, lay it nice and tight. The reason we lay it tight, so that the muck doesn't squeeze up in between. Tap it down to the right level there. I'm doing it one-handed. There we are. So now I can pull it apart, and we want a fall coming this way, and there we are. There's the fall. We have a turn of a bubble here, so it's falling this way, it's falling from the house, and halfway it's falling the other way as well. Sorry about the noise. That was difficult. There you are. What a contrast from this morning. Right, we're just trying to get these in at the right height, and every time we break one cobble back, the mortar comes out on the next one, so it's struggling a little bit, but we'll be all right. We'll get through it now. Well, there you are. Got the cobble path up to the right level now, the newfound level with those slabs. We've just got to finish this piece off here now. So important. I don't put too much water on here, because we've only just laid those. They're going off though. We've had a bit of a mixed bag of weather today, so it's okay. So we can put a little bit more water on than normal, but what we've got to watch is we've got to make sure, and all too often you see people not cleaning down when they finish, and that's when they have problems. Well, there you are. Just wanted to show you. Paving always looks great when it's wet, and that's why maybe a wet look seal would be good on here. But then some people like it dry. Hang on, look, just missed that one there. Look at that there. Right where the hose pipe was. So give that a brush now. There you are. All cleaned off. Nice. Well, every day is a school day, and what have I learned today? Well, I've learned that you've got to make sure that with this fan, you've got to leave it running when you open the doors, because the battery on here is an absolute nightmare. And they keep saying it's a common fault. What that is, I don't know. If it's a common fault, sort it out. It's me, it's Johnny Boy. This must be about the 6th or 7th take now. Look, I've had a great day. We must have had 4 seasons in one day today. So I'm back in the office. Got my my logo behind me there. And I've had a shave, I've had a bath, and I'm just going to have some food. And then when I come back, we're going to talk a little bit about being a landscaper. Things to do and things not to do. Do you know, I've been messing around with the lighting for some time. But now it's come up, so I'm going to keep it like this. Look, I was going to tell you a little bit of the story. I wanted to structure this vlog tonight and break things down about business and being in business. But I suppose the number one factor, probably the most important element about being in business is basically profit. Profit is so important, and when customers say to me it's expensive, and I tell them the reason it's expensive is because of the profit. We need profit. If we don't have profit, why are we doing it? You can do it for the love of it, doing the job, and I've done that a few times where I haven't priced exactly right because I wanted that job. I wanted to sort of, I wanted to do that project, and because I knew that it was going to get me more work. But you'll get, if you are good, you'll get work anyway, no matter what you do. You don't have to buy work. But I wasn't necessarily buying the work in the past on certain projects. It was, I just simply wanted that job because I felt that it was going to be a showcase. But it is the profit. The profit is so important. And the only way to sum it up really is, I remember probably going back 26 years ago, it has to be 26 years ago, travelling down from Wales down to Worcester. We was doing a job in Worcester. I wanted this job. It was a big job and big grand job, and I thought having those big jobs was the thing to do at that time. And you know, we got these delusions of grandeur about doing these big jobs. It was probably about 560 square meters of block paving, and it was for a couple of business guys, and they were business people because they made sure that they got the best from me. Anyway, as the job progressed, I got it wrong, and I did. And I remember having the final check and driving back down to Wales from Worcester. And I remember looking at this check, and I'm driving along, and I keep looking at this check, and it was £4,750, and a lot of money going back 26 years ago. And I kept looking at it, and I thought, I finished this job now, and I kept looking at this check, and I kept taking off everything in my head. And I was just driving along. I wanted to work it out. I was keen to work it out because I wanted to know how much I had left. Yeah, I should have known, shouldn't I? Should have known. And I looked at this check, and I kept taking things off, and I thought, yes, I'll be able to take Alison out and the kids out the weekend, and we'll be able to go out, we'll be able to have a meal, and we'll be able to buy some new clothes and all that sort of thing like you would do normally. Anyway, even if you were working for somebody, you got things planned the weekend. And I kept looking at this check, I kept taking things off, and slowly but surely it got lower and lower what was left. And I finally arrived in Newport looking at this check, and I couldn't believe the figure I came up with. It was £75. £75. What a complete and utter nugget I was. £75. And we weren't going anywhere on the weekend. And I promised myself from that day forward that I would ensure that I priced right, okay? Don't be frightened about making a profit. Don't let your customer or that potential customer put you off, and by them telling you that they can get it done cheaper somewhere else. Well, leave them go and get it done cheaper somewhere else. More than often, it's not always the case that they can get it cheaper. It's just probably because they're playing you, or somebody's told them something different. You need to earn a profit, and how you start breaking that down is you've got to start looking at your overheads, okay? And once you recognise how much you want to earn, what you want to earn, okay, that shouldn't be paying for your overheads, and vice versa. You need to make sure that your overheads, okay, are all accounted for first before you start earning your profit. Whatever that profit is, I don't know. I don't know how you live, okay? But you've got to remember, if your client is your only source of income, you haven't got to rely on your wife's wages to pay for that job, right? It's you that is pricing that job, okay? And you've got to get it right. If it means that he is your only source of income, he's got to pay for your beer, he's got to pay for everything, okay? So you've got to make sure when you sit down, when you're pricing that job, you got to know what your overheads are. Realistic overheads, like the tires on your car, the insurance, the MOT, okay? The public liability insurance. It goes on and on and on. Where you live, whether you got a mortgage or whether you rent, whether you lease a car or a pickup truck, everything, if that client is your only source of income, he has to pay for everything. It's as simple as that, okay? Because no one else is going to pay for it. So it may seem sense to some people that they know exactly what they're pricing for, okay? But you don't want to get drawn in on this price per square meter. Once you've established your overheads and you know what your overheads are and you accounted for that in your quote, then you're on the right road. Write it all down. Every bit that you've got going out, all your overheads, no matter what they are, right, you've got to write them down. And if you're not good at doing that, what I would suggest is maybe ask your wife. Your spouses are really, really good at doing this simply because they know what they need to live on. Women know, okay? They know, okay? But if they don't know, if they're not good at doing figures, it'd be worth to pay a bookkeeper or somebody to help you to do that quote, because it's going to ensure that you don't get it wrong. I'm going to cover this a lot more in detail at a later date, but I just want people to get it right. There's nothing worse when you've worked your socks off and it's been blood, sweat and tears through that duration of that job and you end up with nothing. Don't get it wrong, okay? It's no good for you and it's no good for the customer. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe. I should have said that at the start of the video, and just hit that notification button. It's been a funny old day today, isn't it? With all those the weather we've had. We've had 4 seasons in one day. It's been absolutely incredible. Look, stay safe. I've got a live stream to do this evening, and whatever you're doing, be safe. Take care.